Well, one of the things I think that's happened in the religious community is, you see...
Is it that people keep asking them to actually make good points and arguments that make sense? I know, right? I can't believe anyone would do that. It's so unfair. People should just believe all the incredibly silly things I say without question. And I should most certainly not have to come up with new arguments that aren't already debunked. That sounds like work. And I want to sit in my own little fantasy world, but also force you to live there with me because of how smart I am. Sound about right?
People who are brought up in religious homes and they're taught the stories of the Bible.
Oh, right. Okay, yeah, that is a problem. Being taught ridiculous nonsense as truth is a huge problem. It causes people to go on to be credulous morons who entirely lack proper critical thinking skills and only use what small part of their brains are still functional to justify the things they believe without ever trying to actually believe things that are correct. That's where flat earthers, woo peddlers, and all sorts of other pseudoscientific beliefs come from, and how they have managed to take root. Maybe we should stop telling fantastical bullshit to kids, eh?
They're never taught any deeper philosophy or theology that attaches to that.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure none of that would help. In my experience, all deeper theology seems to lead 90% of people to being far more smug and insufferable about their beliefs whilst still having no actual good points. And of course still provide zero actual evidence for the things they believe, only arguments. And bad ones at that. And don't even get me started on philosophical shit. It is often a very clever way of getting nothing done. Not saying it doesn't have its place. Everyone does philosophy in some form or another, obviously. But if you spend vastly more time rubbing your chin and asking why than actually doing anything, well, that's not exactly helpful now, is it? And some may say,
But, Sick, don't you constantly go into philosophies and shit?
And why, yes, I do. But I never said I got anything done. Or that I wasn't a giant hypocrite.
So they have sort of a children's eyes view of what God is and how to think about God.
Well, you see, there's a good reason for that. God is a childish idea. Seriously, God is what comes when you stop trying to figure out how the world works. Instead of spending time looking at the world and studying it, you can simply say, God did it, and that's the end of that thought process. 'Cause how did he do it? With his God powers. How do they work? Mysteriously. Why did he do it? It's not your place to question God. Nothing about that is satisfying to a mind that actually cares to know things.
You sort of think of God still as the old man in the sky who's controlling things.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's not the problem with religion. In fact, I would be shocked to find an adult alive who actually thinks of God as big man in sky, even with your respective audiences and their giga intellects, or outside it with all the unwashed plebs. No one thinks that literally of G-Dog. No, the real problem is he doesn't fucking exist at all as the man in the sky or an intangible, inexorable mass of will-powered nothing or otherwise, because that shit doesn't make no sense.
What in your opinion is the most reasonable proof of God? What have you found to be the most convincing proof of God's existence?
Well, I think that...
Whoa there, Billiam. No need to shout at poor soft, shy Ben. You'll give the poor flower a heart attack. I mean, look at that difference in your volumes. Christ, gonna have to turn you down. And, okay, most reasonable and compelling argument for God's existence. Hopefully it won't be something both not at all reasonable when you think about it for 1 second, and only compelling to people who already believe the thing that it claims to demonstrate. Because that would just be fucking embarrassing, not gonna lie.
Well, I think that those are two questions.
You think that's two questions? So are you saying that the most compelling proof of God's existence is not reasonable, and that the most reasonable proof for God's existence is not compelling? I mean, fair enough, I admire your honesty, that this is going to be a giant shit show of nonsense. Thanks.
For me, my favorite argument for the existence of God that I find the most compelling...
It's clearly the getting blood out of a fucking stone argument, obviously. I mean, you would think that Mr. Famous real good at braining the God Boys man, zillions of Craig Lanes, would be ready and raring to go with his bestest argument, instead of having to dither around, looking like some doddering old fool.
Is a version of the cosmological argument, which goes like this.
Ew, not the cosmological argument again. Oh, but wait, it's a version of it. Maybe this one isn't repeatedly debunked nonsense. That not only is and of itself not compelling evidence for any god, but is also terrible evidence for specific ones at all.
Whatever begins to exist has a cause.
Well, right in there with the first and foremost, actually, that needs to be dealt with. That only applies to the universe we inhabit and the rules that we have seen therein so far. If the universe has limits, which seems to be the case, then there is potentially an outside of the universe where that rule doesn't apply. And sure, that could be the location of some kind of god-man. But it could also just be a place where the rules are different and different things happen. So premise 1 doesn't even hold up. God job. Jub gob. You know what I mean.
Something can't just come into being from nothing.
Prove it? You see, you don't actually know that. And in fact, there is some sciencing being done in the quantum boys that I would not even begin to pretend to understand. But there seemed to be a possibility of particles coming from nowhere in that realm. And if that's not right, either because that's not what it actually says, because me dumb, but that doesn't mean that we won't find some other process that does produce something from nothing. So again, if you want to make statements like that, you're going to have to do a lot more than simply proclaiming it as fact.
Secondly, the universe began to exist.
I really don't want to repeat myself, but how do you know that? You certainly didn't get it from the science, because the science is not out on that subject yet. And I swear to non-existo, Bilbo Laserbrains, if you call the Big Bang the beginning of the universe, why, I'm going to stop taking you seriously. Oh, you're right, I never took him seriously. And I genuinely don't understand why anyone else does.
I think we have both good philosophical arguments and scientific evidence for the finitude of the past.
Finitude of the past? What, as in the past is finite? Okay, but scientifically, no, we literally don't. And philosophically, who gives a solitary shit? Again, I'm not trying to be down on philosophy, but you can have philosophical arguments for literally fucking anything. That's why we don't use it in science to prove things? I know, weird, right?
From which it follows, third, therefore the universe has a cause.
Arguably, it doesn't, because both of your premises, let's say, are flawed at best, and wrong at, they are. So yeah, not the best, most convincing thing ever, but fuck it, let's give him his caused universe. Okay then, so what? Many things cause things within our universe, and 99.99% of the time, when a thing is or does a cause, it's a thing, not a person doing that. Or even any kind of entity with what one might call will. So if the universe has a cause, it's most likely something, not someone. Ah, damn, that doesn't sound like God at all.
And when you do a conceptual analysis of what it is to be a cause of the universe,
when you do a conceptual analysis of what it is to be a cause of the universe. Holy shit, when did this turn into spirit science starring Bluey and Woo cracked? God damn, that is some of the most pretentious word salady garbage I've heard in a while. Ugh, but okay, what is it conceptually to be the cause of the universe? Go ahead. But do note that if you make a giant leap of logic without bothering to justify a thing you say, I'm going to have to continue making fun of you. I was going to do that anyway, but just for the joy of the sport, not out of necessity.
You arrive at a being.
See, only 5 words in and he's already gone wildly off the rails. Being? The fuck are you talking about? How could you possibly have come to that conclusion? Well, I know how, because you're a presuppositional dumbass. But how could you get there without, deciding what your conclusion is first? Well, obviously you can't, because without deciding what it would be, there's just no conceivable way to get there with the premises as you've laid them out. Again, most things are caused by things. Therefore, if the universe was caused, it was most likely a thing and not some being.
Which is an uncaused, beginningless, timeless,
existenceless pile of bullshit. Wait, did I speak too soon? No, of course I didn't, because it's all just a bunch of hoo-ha. This is either supposed to be his most convincing argument for God, or it's supposed to be his most reasonable one, and I see no reason, and I am in no way convinced. If anything, he's only proven that the universe doesn't need a god, only instead of seeing that pretty obvious conclusion, has gone in a completely different direction for no reason.
Spaceless, enormously powerful, personal creator of the universe.
Absolutely, positively pulled out of your asshole. I mean, let's focus on an enormously powerful thing. Define that for me. What is power in this context? Is it the simple output of large amounts of energy? Okay, so like a sun is powerful, but it's also just a mindless clump of stuff. Perhaps you mean in control of a large amount of power. Okay, but so is humanity. However, you wouldn't actually say that of the average human, only as a collective. And yeah, one might be able to push the button or whatever sets off the thing of power, but that could be literally any of them. And without the collective, the individual is effectively near powerless. Now, I'm running off the examples we have. Your example of powerful entity is not something we have any examples of. So again, you are just making things up. Perhaps stop.
So for me, that is a very convincing argument for God.
Then you are quite possibly the greatest con man of all time, because I've heard many people, atheists included, hold you up as some kind of great thinker. But if you think that was in any way, shape or form convincing, you might actually be a gibbering simpleton, with a brain that resembles not a sack of neurons, but instead some kind of, what's the word?
But
yeah, exactly. You know what? Maybe you're not as dumb as I thought. Right, didn't you say you had another one? I guess this has to be the reasonable one, if that was supposed to be convincing, yeah?
I find that with university students, that's not the most convincing argument.
If that just isn't damning with, it's not even faint praise, it's just damning. I find that if I tell educated people my stupid fucking idea, they tell me it's stupid and try to figure out what the hell is wrong with me. Holy shit, that is fucking hilarious, I'm not gonna lie.
You can ignore philosophical arguments for the finitude of the past.
Well, yeah, because they don't prove anything. That's how that works. You have to have actually evidence for the claims you make to people who work with that shit. You speak as if that's not just the correct reaction when someone is trying to convince you of something, when they don't actually have anything.
Or scientific evidence for the beginning of the universe.
Oh, and that's just frickin' wrong. Where on earth did you get that from? Or do you not actually have any idea what science says about the possible beginnings of the universe? Because, yeah, no, they aren't ignoring shit. In fact, that's exactly what they want. And if your argument is based on scientific evidence, then that's what it should say. So clearly, if they aren't accepting what you are saying it is, maybe you need to look into why that is instead of just assuming that you must be right.
But the argument that they find, I think, the most compelling is what I call the moral argument.
I'll bet they fucking don't. And wait a second, you said that one was reasonable and that the other was convincing. That or you just don't know what the hell you said, because this is just a stream of consciousness coming out your ass. Which maybe you could argue that's what he's doing and that it's not there for me to scrutinize. But it is. He's in a studio, he probably did actually write this down, and yet he still screwed it up. It's almost like he's just not that good at this shit. What he is confident and speaks with authority. Well, so do I. But I'm a fucking idiot, and I'm pretty sure he is too.
And it would go like this. 1.
Morality is a human concept, and so is God, the end.
If God does not exist, then objective moral values and duties do not exist.
No, that's not a true statement at all. First, objective morals could exist without any sort of supernatural being. There could be some kind of morality generating particle in the universe that makes objective morals a fact. It seems unlikely because that's dumb, and so is, But also the reverse is true. There could be a God who has no form of objective morality. Think of it this way. You could write a simulation so complex it rivals our own universe for how it gets down to the nuts and bolts. As the creator of that universe, as far as we can tell, there's no force in this universe that says you have to give a shit what any creature that possibly evolves in your universe has to think or feel or act. Same would likely be true in your godded Ouniverse. In fact, if he did have to give us morals, well, that would bring into question any form of triomni being right then and there.
That is to say, in the absence of God, everything becomes socioculturally relative.
Actually, while morality absolutely is relative, they also do come from somewhere. It's just not God. Morals are evolved behaviors that benefit the group. That's it. If it's not beneficial, it's not moral, like 99% of the time. Simple as.
2, but objective moral values and duties do exist. There are some moral absolutes, some objective values and duties.
Okay, prove them. And show how all people throughout time have known and performed those moral duties and absolutes. Because what you really mean is that humans have spent a shitload of time coming up with moral frameworks that we all, for the most part, agree are the right way to do things. But that shit took a really, really long time and is still being worked on. If it was all so objective, we would have had this shit locked down day one. Unless you can pull out your objective morality detector. But it better not be the Bible, because that shit is less moral than I am. And I am literally a fucking monster.
3, therefore God exists.
LOL.
Now, this is an argument which is impossible, I think, to ignore, because every day you get up,
some stupid asshole who thinks it's a good argument is going to repeat it at you verbatim. And no matter how many times you refute the shit out of it, they are going to toddle off completely oblivious to that fact, because they are too goddamn dumb to understand how fucking asinine it is, and what an idiot they so obviously are.
Wait, before you go, I have something super important to tell you. It's life or death. It will change everything forever. Nope, wait, it's gone. Oh well, probably wasn't important. But while I have you, don't forget to comment, subscribe and notify. And if you want more of my smexy voice, check out Mrs. Six's channel Spoonstar Stories, where I narrate and voice all the videos, and she does the work. And if you want to support the channel, check out the merch store for cool t-shirts, or check out Patreon, memberships and PayPal to support directly. Finally, follow me on the medias of social to get completely pointless guff and to keep up on the latest releases. Oh, I just remembered what I was going to tell you. Whatever you do, don't touch the...